I don't know. I don't remember. There was a couple points where he just like he caught. Ezra is like a pretty open-minded guy. Oh, I forgot to run the ad break, by the way. Ezra is a pretty open-minded guy, and I kind of like him. Yeah. Oh, when Ezra said Hamas apologists, yes, thank you. That is right-wing framing baked into the fucking conversation. Far-right Israelis, Hamas apologists, and he caught that. Ta-Nehisi caught that shit and was like, I'm gonna push back on this. Why did you say Hamas apologists, but you said far-right Israelis? And by the way, Ezra is my problematic fave. I don't really care. I don't know why I've like developed such a liking to him. I guess like it is what it is. Like listening to his podcasts have like he annoys me at times, but I do still have this appreciation for him because I think he does a decent job of like presenting himself as a charitable guy who is willing to have his mind changed. Like he doesn't give me like annoying fucking grimy grifter. You're philo-Semitic? Okay, bro, chill. Who's Ezra? Ezra Miller? Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein at the New York Times, he's the creator of Vox, and then and now he has a podcast on New York Times. He's not a smarmy lib. More than can be said for most libs, to be honest. Yeah. Anyway, and I think that, be honest, there's no shot you actually think he cares that much about gay people in the Middle East as he claimed to yesterday. What? No. What are you talking about? What are you, fucking stupid? No, of course not. What? No.
Conversation between HasanAbi and Asmongold right now. I'm about an hour into it, and if you're unfamiliar with that conversation, basically Asmongold is coming under fire for saying that Palestinian culture is an inferior culture to that of Western culture because of its roots in Islam, making it more prone to homophobia, transphobia, and more extremist conservative views. And I find Hasan's response to that to be very interesting. I'm going to put this into my own terms, the meaning that I understand and take away from it. Namely, Hasan seems to be saying that there is no such thing as one culture which is inferior to another culture so much as it is one culture which is more or less mature than another culture. And maturity can be hampered or stunted by a lack of material circumstance, and or from the restriction or taking away of material circumstance, a culture might regress, which we might be experiencing here in the United States, unfortunately, at the moment. Now, that's not to say that as cultures mature that they all homogenize into one identical culture. Not at all. Much like individuals, each person develops and matures into their own self. And Hasan goes on to argue that all cultures should be supported insofar as making sure that their material needs are met so that they have enough autonomy so that the liberation movements that are necessary for them to mature can occur. But right now, especially in Palestine, they are constantly under attack. They are in survival mode, and when they are in survival mode, there cannot be the necessary steps towards liberation for marginalized people groups. So the first step is to get to a place of stability, get to a place of general liberation from an oppressive regime. And then
that's a good summary.
From there, we should start to hopefully see like cultural maturity. Now, another point that Hasan argues that I would be remiss not to mention is the fact that historically the idea of one culture being inferior to another culture, like inherently in such a way that it cannot necessarily change to become, more mature in those terms, but it's this more static thing of being inferior, that has historically been used as an excuse to commit atrocities against people groups, whether it's been indigenous people or black people. So we need to be very...
Because the debate was stupid, he only had one argument. It doesn't matter because just listen to my words, man. Okay? For 45 to 47,000 people that were listening to Asmongold, this was the first fucking time where they literally heard someone from start to finish describe that there is no inferiority in cultures, that like these guys are too busy fucking surviving to actually turn around and be like, oh, let's do a gay pride parade. You know what I mean? Like all of this stuff is basically just repackaged historical materialism. All of this stuff is basically explaining American foreign policy and how devastating that has been for entire regions, showcasing like that these places, when they had a crumb of autonomy, were able to actually, have a more, I guess, Western focused, like liberally palatable fucking existence that all went away when fundamentalists came in to the fold as like the number one emancipators and liberators away from the influence of the treacherous parasitic Western imperialist forces. Like all of this stuff is obviously important for these people to hear. Okay, it doesn't matter what Asmongold's argument is. Like even if a lot of people are going in there to be like, oh, Asmongold is cooking, he's going to destroy this guy. Like ultimately, there is still a shit ton of people that hear that for the first time ever when they haven't ever heard about that, and their framework will change.
Very careful in the language that we use when speaking about other cultures, especially cultures that have yet to mature and are under intense oppression. Now, Hasan's take on culture was something I had actually never heard before, and up till hearing it, I actually wasn't entirely sure how I felt about the whole cultural situation. I had heard somebody bring it up to me before, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. I like Hasan's take on this. I'm curious what other people think.
I feel like Hasan's take is basic sociology. There are probably a lot of YouTube vids on the topic that could help you explore further. Maybe trying to find a vid on Maslow's hierarchy. Wonder why they don't teach historical materialism in school. Sounds pretty cool. Yeah. It's not culture that causes homophobia or whatever. By this logic, I'm a dirty Indian because I'm from an immature culture, not due to material conditions of the subcontinent. Culture is completely separate from social conservatism and social liberalism. Culture is stuff like food, language, dress, literature, and their history. Exactly. No, absolutely. That's precisely what it is. That is what it is. There is no like this culture is better than others or whatever the fuck. Culture is just the sum total products that the output that you create as you respond to your material conditions.